Water, our most precious resource, vital to human beings and every living thing. The quality of life and economic prosperity that we in Northeast Colorado share would be impossible without a dependable supply of fresh water. Water that is managed and delivered year-round to meet the needs of people, agriculture, industry, recreation, and the environment. But having an adequate water supply wasn't always the reality in this semi-arid region. Only the vision and dedication of past and present leaders have made dependable water supplies possible. Early explorers like Lieutenant Zebulon Pike and Major Stephen Long, who came to Northeast Colorado to map and study the newly acquired territory in the wake of the 1803 Louisiana Purchase, found a dry, high desert environment. They discovered a region of few trees, little moisture, and inconsistent stream flows. In 1806, Lieutenant Pike wrote of the area, "These vast plains of the Western Hemisphere may become in time equally celebrated with the sandy deserts of Africa." In 1820, Major Long noted in his expedition journal that the new territory was a barren region unfit for the habitation of civilized man. Mapmakers accompanying the Long expedition created the first widely distributed maps of the territory. They inscribed Great American Desert across the entire plains region, a label which appeared on maps and was etched in people's minds for decades afterward. Despite the lack of precipitation and inconsistent stream flows, people settled here. Spurred by the gold rush of 1859 and a thirst for adventure and new opportunity, pioneers settled on what would become some of the country's best farmland. Many had agricultural backgrounds and decided to grow food for the ever-increasing population. These sodbusters discovered that precipitation and natural stream flows were not sufficient to sustain agriculture. They also found that much of the best land was further from the natural waterways. During the 1860s and 1870s, ditch systems were built, first as small individual efforts, then larger and longer projects. Later, farmers banded together to build canals and laterals, often forming mutual ditch and irrigation companies for these tasks. As money for building these water systems was always a concern, foreign investment was sometimes solicited. Around the turn of the century, the federal government began showing an interest in reclaiming western lands, and federal reclamation projects became possible. It was clear that in most years, northeastern Colorado streams and rivers did not contain enough water throughout the year. Building reservoirs to capture and store water when it was available during the spring snowmelt runoff became necessary. This stored water would then be available for crops, which required late irrigation. The stored water would also be available in drier years. The lack of water on the east slope was compounded by periods of drought. These factors led East Slope residents to dream of tapping the abundant water of the West Slope and bringing it east.
Well, you have to remember that 1933 was the middle of a terrible depression in the United States. The agricultural economy had been going downhill for the past 10 years. And in addition, the drought, which affected the entire West, had been specifically difficult for Colorado since 1928. So when the people of northern Colorado found out that they had been denied water out of the North Platte River, really the only place they had to look for supplemental water was the Colorado River. And the problem that they faced was that this meant an enormous construction project to bring that water over to the slope.
My name's Eric Wilkinson. I'm General Manager of the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District. My job is to manage the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District and carry out the policies and procedures dictated by our 12-member board of directors that governs our district.
The Colorado Big Thompson project, built by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation from 1938 to 1956, is designed to collect and store the plentiful water supply from the melting winter snows in the headwaters region of the Colorado River. This water is then diverted through a great tunnel under the Continental Divide to the Big Thompson River drainage on the eastern slope. This marriage of two geographically separate rivers into one ingenious water project lent the project its name, the Colorado Big Thompson Project, or CBT. The CBT project was designed to deliver up to 310,000 acre-feet of water per year. After traveling through the mountains, the water drops nearly half a mile in elevation to the eastern plains. As it falls, CBT water passes through 5 hydroelectric generating plants to produce electricity. Once it reaches the eastern plains, the water is distributed within the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District's 1.5 million acre service area as a supplemental supply for over 630,000 irrigated acres of farmland, 29 cities and towns, 120 ditch and reservoir companies, and many major local industries. It's a simple concept, but the design and operation of the CBT project is anything but simple. Let's take a closer look at how the system works. Green Mountain Reservoir, the first CBT facility built on the west slope, is an example of the cooperation that was necessary to build the project. Green Mountain was built for the west slope residents as compensation for the water which would be brought to the east slope. The West Slope collection system begins with Grand Lake, the deepest natural lake in Colorado. From Grand Lake, water flows into the Alva B. Adams Tunnel, the project's conduit under the Continental Divide to the east slope. As a condition for building the CBT project, it was agreed that the water level in Grand Lake would be maintained at a nearly constant level so that residents living on Grand Lake and the recreation businesses dependent on the lake would not be negatively impacted. To keep Grand Lake's elevation stable, Shadow Mountain Reservoir was constructed downstream on the Colorado River, connected to Grand Lake by a channel. Shadow Mountain helps keep Grand Lake at a constant level while water is drawn through the Adams Tunnel. Below Shadow Mountain, there was a great natural basin. Engineers from the Bureau of Reclamation built dams and dikes to create Lake Granby, the principal CBT storage reservoir on the west slope and the second largest body of water in Colorado. A short distance away, another collection reservoir was built by damming Willow Creek to form Willow Creek Reservoir. Here's how the collection system works. Spring runoff water from the Colorado River is collected in Grand Lake, Shadow Mountain Reservoir, and Lake Granby. Runoff from Willow Creek is also collected in Willow Creek Reservoir and then pumped up 170 vertical feet into Lake Granby. Since Lake Granby is 186 feet lower than Shadow Mountain, water again has to be pumped. The job is handled by the heart of the CBT system, the Far Pumping Plant, a deceptive and remarkable facility. Deceptive because the plant is as tall as a 16-story building, yet only 4 stories are above ground. Remarkable because it houses 3 vertical shaft pumps, each powered by one 6,000 horsepower motor. These pumps lift and push water through an 11-foot diameter pipe and into the Granby Pump Canal, where it flows by gravity into Shadow Mountain Reservoir and Grand Lake. From Grand Lake, the water enters the Alva B. Adams Tunnel for its 2.5 to 3-hour journey through the Rocky Mountains to the eastern slope. The Adams Tunnel is an amazing story of engineering excellence and human persistence. The 13.1-mile tunnel is 9 feet 9 inches in diameter, blasted and dug through solid granite mountains. Completed from 1940 to 1944, the gargantuan effort to hole the tunnel through was accomplished by 240 men working over 1.8 million hours. Construction crews working simultaneously from the east and west had to battle tough underground conditions. At any time, men could have been crushed by cave-in, killed by dynamite blast, or drowned in an underground spring. There were also worker and supply shortages, work stoppages, and breakdowns brought on by a nation at war in Europe and the Pacific. Yet through all this, the great artery of the CBT system was completed. When measurements were taken after the east and west bores met deep within the Rocky Mountains, Bureau of Reclamation engineers proudly announced that the bores were off by less than the height of a penny. 3 years later in 1947, after the tunnel's concrete lining was completed, the first Colorado River water emerged to a thirsty and expectant eastern slope. 10 years of work remained, however, before the East Slope CBT facilities were ready to operate at capacity. Once through the Adams Tunnel, the water is put to work. After emerging at East Portal Reservoir, the water begins its drop to the eastern plains through a series of underground siphons, tunnels, and above-ground pipes called penstocks. Along the way, it passes through Mary's Lake, Lake Estes, the reservoir formed by damming the big Thompson River below the town of Estes Park, Pinewood Reservoir, and 5 hydroelectric power plants. Some of the clean, renewable power generated by these plants is used to run the West Slope Collection System's pumping plants, while the remaining power is made available to the public power system. The power generated pays for most of the CBT project construction costs by returning revenues to the federal government. The CBT project's power generation is managed by the Bureau of Reclamation. The Western Area Power Administration is the federal agency which markets and distributes the power in the western region of the United States. The Bureau, with input from the Western Area Power Administration, manages water scheduling and controls flows through the Adams Tunnel remotely by computer. After it has completed its descent, the West Slope water ends up in Flatiron Reservoir. Flatiron is also home to the Bureau of Reclamation's Eastern Colorado Area Office. From Flatiron, the waters move north by gravity flow through the Charles Hanson Feeder Canal, where it can be released into the Big Thompson River or carried on into Horsetooth Reservoir, the largest CBT reservoir on the eastern plains. From Horsetooth, releases are made to the city of Fort Collins, rural domestic water users, and to farmers and water users throughout the Poudre River Basin.